In the year of 2023, electricity will have made the world so efficient that people will only need to work 4 hours a day. That statement came from Charles Steinmetz in 1923 when he predicted how work would look like 100 years into the future. Now, raise your hand, those who work only 4 hours a day. 2 people. So I guess he was wrong, right? Very wrong. We'll get to that later. My name is Segev. I'm a Senior Director of Engineering in Sage, and I also lead the Israeli R&D Center. I'm here to share with you today a bit of our experience with the 4-day work week and what we learned from it. I promise I'm not going to let you work like Yuval. Maybe work a little bit less. So we'll talk about who we are, what is it exactly that we do in this experiment, why did we choose to do that, how we do that, then we'll see the results, and probably the most important thing and interesting one is the conclusions. So a little bit about us, what Sage is. So Sage is a public global tech company. It has more than 3 million customers. It worth $10 billion and employs more than 13K employees globally. Mainly fintech, but some other stuff as well. And in Israel, we are much, much smaller than that. We are 45 employees. Oh, what's up? 45 employees. Our office is located in Midtown, Tel Aviv. And we are mainly focused on building AI-driven tools for the CFO office, so for the finance teams. This is who we are. Before we dive into our experience, just in alignment, because I know there are some non-Israelis in the audience. So in Israel, the work week is quite peculiar, and it starts on Sunday, yes, and it ends on Thursday. That means Friday and Saturdays are the weekends for the ordinary work week in Israel. What we decided to do in Sage is to add Sunday to that, okay? So our work week starts on Monday and ends on Thursday, so we have 3 days of weekend. And to do that, we follow a model called 100-80-100, which means 100% of the work, 80% of the time, so just 4 days instead of 5, with 100% of compensation. So no cut in salary, no cut in bonuses, vacation days, everything stays the same, but our commitments also stay the same. Okay, so our roadmap that we were committed to before we started this pilot stayed exactly the same throughout the pilot. The immediate question is, are you crazy? That's a huge risk, which is true. It is a huge risk, but risk needs to be mitigated. So what did we do? We called it an Israeli pilot. Okay, because it's limited locally, so it's only 45 employees and not the 13K that Sage has around the world. We may expand it if it's successful, but at the beginning it's limited locally. It's limited in time, so it has a very concrete time frame, which is 1 year. If it is successful after 1 year, we may extend it, but we start with 1 year. I probably don't need to tell you about the importance of feedback loop. So we also set checkpoints and very fast feedback loop throughout this 1 year. And of course, KPIs. When you do experiments, when you do pilot, very clearly you need to have very clear set of KPIs, and we have more than 20 KPIs that we are monitoring. By the way, most of them have been monitored also before the pilot started. Okay, so you know who we are, you know what we are talking about. First question is why? Why the hell to do it? Why not? Yeah, for employees maybe, but for the company, the question is why. And it all starts with COVID. Like many different things that happened to the work environment in the recent years, COVID is the main catalyst of this. And I would even say remote work. Okay, working from home is actually even more specifically one of the biggest catalysts. And working from home for us started just like many other companies. It was very, very good, right? Everyone loved it. At home, you do only work. At the office, you have your colleagues, you're sitting in traffic, and all those other interruptions that don't appear at home. That's how we all started. Oops. But gradually, we started to see that it becomes harder and harder to balance between work and life because work is now part of your personal home, right? And this is how we looked. Yeah, the formatting was better on my Mac. This is how we looked like at the beginning, but again, gradually, we also saw some of the downsides of working from home. It's not to say working from home is not good, but we were also became familiar with its downsides. And I think one of the things that was very clear is that people started to feel more and more exhausted. And I see some of you smiling, so you can probably relate to that pictures. And by the way, thanks to Irina Block for all those great comics. So if people feel this way, if people have too much work to do, they feel hectic, like the environment is hectic, they're juggling, they're multitasking, they feel burnout. Fatigue was almost the word of the year in 2020 and 2021. Employees are stressed, exhausted, unfocused. There's no way to be productive in this environment. Simply no way. And when this is the environment, you miss your targets. It doesn't have to be like a large miss, but you can definitely do better. And this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to achieve workplace serenity instead of those stress, hectic environment, which means team that is more calm, happy, peaceful, and energized. And that's why we picked off the 4-day workweek. We believed that a 4-day workweek model will help us to achieve this.
Continuing to work from home?
I'll get to that. So let's talk about the how. The most important thing that we wanted to achieve is focus. It was very clear to us that focus is a key success factor in this process. And I talked about focus many times during these sessions. Because focus lets you be in a different mental situation without all the interruptions. That's what we try to do. The first thing we did is we split two small teams, and the team decided, they talked about what are the things that interrupt them the most, how they can change their routines in order to be more effective and in order to be successful in 4 days, because remember, they have to deliver everything they were committed to now in 4 days instead of 5. So we changed 3 routines. The first one is our daily routine. First of all, we labeled the important activities. Important meetings, find them, label them, keep them, and remove the rest, right? So I'm sure I don't need to tell you there are some meetings, can be an email, can be something else, can be a discussion. Remove everything that is not important. Second, not all meetings are the same. Forget the Outlook default values, 1 hour, even 30 minutes. Use different times for different meetings. Okay, resize your activities. Last but not least, one of the things that the team mentioned as something that impacts their productivity is interruptions. And they really said that they need some free time to zone in, to do their work in an environment with less interruptions. So we decided to have 3 hours daily between 2 to 5 p.m. where meetings are not happening, where synchronous communication is not happening. At least we try to. Okay? Not always we succeed, but at least we try to. Our weekly routines, and that's go back to your question, we decided to go hybrid, which means 2 days in the office, 2 days at home. We think it's really, really important that everyone attends to the office at the same days. We found that this model works for us the best because we see the value in collaboration, but we also see the value in working from home and those benefits. And Sunday routines, again, because we need to be very, very effective on those 4 days, we are trying to schedule all the personal life activities to Sunday. If it's not urgent, like dentist, fixing your car, etc., we try to do that on Sunday. That's what we decided as a team. So recap of the how. Okay? We change our routines daily, weekly, and Sunday in order to achieve focus. What do you want to achieve? Focus. Didn't think about that. Nice. Okay, so let's see the results. We have been doing that for more than 10 months now. So the results you're going to see immediately are for the first 3 quarters. And we are looking about really 2 main aspects. All the KPI can be divided to 2 main aspects: employee wellness and business wellness. And while they appear like this in the slide, they're actually more like this, because we firmly believe that when employee wellness increases, productivity increases, and also the business result increase. So let's look about just 4 KPIs, 4 selected KPIs that I brought you here that, as I said, we monitor regardless of that experiment. So Sage monitors those globally, so we had good base for comparison. ESAT, employee satisfaction, is the first one. Stress levels, sense of productivity, how people feel about their own productivity, and attrition. Employee satisfaction increased 18% during this time. Probably not surprising. Stress level increased 26%. Decreased, sorry. 26%, which is huge. Which is huge for your mental capacity, which is huge to make you more productive. Sense of productivity increased 31%. Okay, so people actually feel that they are more productive. And attrition. I thought really hard before writing this number because I didn't want to jinx it. But I wrote it at the end. Okay, we had 0 attrition since we started the pilot, and we definitely had attrition before. Okay, so it's a change.
How did you measure this?
Everything is different. Most of them are surveys. Attrition, obviously, you can see. But Sage has periodic surveys, again, regardless of the pilot, and we use them.
But you don't measure productivity, you measure the sense of productivity.
Great question. Why? Because I have... She asked about productivity, and I'll get to that in a minute. So there is an old saying, one picture worth 1,000 words. So this dude really summarized nice how the employees feel about this model. Let's talk about business wellness, and here comes productivity. So the first and most important one is business commitments. Do we meet our business commitments? Okay, that's the first question. Second question is quality, because you can meet the business commitments, but in very poor quality. So did you meet your quality targets? What's the team velocity? How did this impact team velocity? And team lead feedback. Okay, so while there are some quantitative metric, there is also the quality one, which is the feedback of the team leads, which for us is huge and very, very important, because the team leads really know best how the team acts. They work with them daily, so that was also an important. Business commitments, 100% achievement. I will even tell you a secret. First time we were ahead of time releasing something during this time. Quality targets. Every quality target met, 100%. Team velocity increased 13%. Almost a magic, because we removed one day, but the velocity increased. Okay? And last but not least, oops, that wasn't supposed to be 3, that was supposed to be V. So imagine there's a V there, because I said it's a qualitative and not quantitative, but team lead feedback was very positive. And this guy here is Sage CEO, Steve Hare, and as you can see, he's pretty happy, which summarizes the business results of this experiment. Okay, we got to the most important part, the last part, and the most important one, which is the conclusions and what we learned from it. So a reminder, we wanted to achieve focus, and this was the most important thing for us. And why? Why? Because there are many, many interruptions throughout the day. We realized that, and we want to try fight it back. Okay? I don't need to tell you how those apps and social apps impact your daily routine. They are really, really competing on one thing, which is your attention. It's really hard to be productive in this environment. But it's not only those apps, right? It's the office. It's what's happening in the office. It's your colleagues. It's meetings. It's your boss. They are also competing on your attention. And I wish it was only that. It's your personal life as well, right? It's your family. It's your friends and things you need to take care of in your house. All of those asking for your attention, so how can you be productive in this environment? And what we end up is something like this, trying to do many things at the same time. Yuval, you talked about it earlier, right? Trying to do many things at the same time. And what's common to those two pictures is that obviously they are not real, right? They were generated with DALL-E, OpenAI image generator, right? Because at least for most of us, I know there are some super person in the audience that can do few things at the same time, but most of us can't, okay? And one interesting thing about those pictures is that when I gave the prompt to DALL-E to create those, I said nothing about the image of their face and how those people feel, okay? But it's very clearly, you can say that they are not happy, they are not calm, right? Serenity is not there. So, I did. Because if there is someone who can do multiple things at the same time, it's not us. So according to research, the average employee stays productive for less than 3 hours a day. I did not invent that. This is serious research. Less than 3 hours a day. Let it sink. Yes. What? Yeah, I'll repeat the question. Everything you said talks about a few hours a day, so the question here is, why not adopting a different model, not 4 days a week, but 4 hours a day? The reason is that people and companies that tried that failed. Okay, before we went to this journey, we read articles and research and saw what others did, and that those experiments failed miserably. There are reasons for that. We'll not get to that, but they failed while other experiments of 4-day work week succeeded. So if the average employee stays productive only 3 hours a day, maybe he wasn't that wrong after all, right? And I get back to what we try to do is we try to improve employee wellness in order to improve business wellness. And I think the most important thing we did is this. Okay, we built a wall. We built a wall between work and life. Because everyone talks about work-life balance. Balancing is really, really hard. So we said, okay, forget it. We're not trying to balance anymore. And by the way, this was not something we thought about. We realized it after. It was an afterthought. After we saw what 3 days of weekend mean to us, we realized that this is what we did. Okay, we built a wall. 3 days of doing nothing but personal life. Then you come to the office on Monday with boost of energy, just waiting for work. You don't want to see your kids anymore. You don't want to see, you just wanted to work. Work, work, work. We have a variety of people in the various different ages. But this is probably the most important thing that we did. We built that wall, and it proved itself. It proved successful. So in summary, we created focus. We created engagement, which leads to hitting the targets. Thank you.